You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Today's episode is sponsored by Stringjoy Custom Guitar Strings. I had Scott on the podcast a while back, and I admit, when he contacted me to come on, I was like, strings? I mean, how much are we going to really talk about strings? It's a string. But I was wrong. I was very wrong indeed. There's a lot that we don't think about as guitar players that go into strings. And quite frankly, the sets that we've played for years, the sets we know and love, they're not exactly optimized the way they should be. You'll notice even in standard tuning that some just don't feel right from string to string. Well, Stringjoy takes care of that. Go on their website. They have every gauge you can think of, and you can create a custom set like specifically tailored to your needs. And if you don't know exactly what you need, just do what I do. Email Scott and tell him what kind of guitar you're playing, what style of music, what tuning you're in, and he will get you the exact gauges that you need. And your guitar is going to both sound and feel way better than it has probably ever. So do yourself a favor, go ahead, check out Stringjoy, and then you'll thank me later. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Greg Djerrahian from SolidGoldFX. What's going on, man?
How's it going, Blake?
Pretty good. Glad to finally get you on the show. This is a long time coming.
Been trying to do this for a few weeks now.
And it's been talked about for a year almost?
Yeah. Alex he keeps bringing it up.
Yes. Is this a first podcast you've done?
This is my very first podcast.
Very nice. So, how you been? Well, you should start with just a how you been. What have you been up to? Anything interesting?
What haven't we been up to?
Anything that you can
sums it up.
What haven't we been up to?
Yeah, no, it's been a busy stretch. So we got building stuff, building all kinds of stuff, building all kinds of new stuff.
New stuff.
Trying new stuff. Playing with old stuff. So yeah, we've been keeping busy. So as you know, we did we did the pedal for you, but the Model 1.
Yes.
So that was
marvelous job on that. Also,
thank you. That was fantastic. You did a marvelous job as well.
Oh, well, thank you. I did a really good job of saying, Greg, I like this. Do this to it.
Hey, listen, it was a great idea. I love the artwork. I love the way everything came together. And it was a fun project to work on and build. So yeah, that was a blast.
Sweet.
So yeah, that's been playing around with a couple of different types of pedals, dabbling with doing a couple of amp restorations, designing an amp.
Oh,
yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit, or is it still kind of on the hush hush?
Well, we're kind of entering the final stretch in terms of now getting it ready for the way everything is supposed to be. The first round prototype was, I built a number of amps over the years. Here and there, nothing on like a commercial level, just for
right.
locals. So decided that I finally wanted to do something where it just blends everything that I want in a package that I like, and keep it simple. Great pedal platform, but at the same time, when people usually say an amp is a pedal platform, the amp lacks character and color, whereas this one is a colorful amp that is a fantastic pedal platform.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it's
can
a
we
small
get
112 combo.
Oh, there you go. You're going where I was headed, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's a small 112 combo, really, really simple. 2-channel, where one is volume tone, the other one is just a straight up volume with no tone stack.
Mm-hmm.
Dual 6v6. I love it. So I'm really happy about it.
About 20 watts or so?
A little less than that. I'd say about 15 watts.
Okay, sweet. Well, that's really exciting. I can't wait to see that. That's super awesome. That'll be really cool.
Great. I mean, the visual is fantastic. We got a couple of different colors for the cabs and all that stuff. And in terms of the sound, really took my time dialing it in and just obsessing over speaker selection, a couple of different component values back and forth until everything dialed in. At the same time, I'm playing it for a while, so the speaker breaks in and get the full sound of it.
Right. What did you end up settling on for a speaker?
I love the Eminence stuff. I'm a huge fan of the Eminence stuff. So we're actually going with the Eminence Texas Heat, which is super overpowered for the amp, but again, great for a pedal platform because you don't have an abundance of speaker coloration or cone cry or distortion from the speaker.
I tend to like that better across the board. I've not found in playing, I find when the speaker starts distorting, for myself personally, it feels kind of weird. I know some guys like that sound, but to me it just feels strange dynamically.
It's not my jam. I don't like it when that happens. Things become just a little bit more unpredictable, I find. And you start to lose some of the detail. It gets a little fuzzy. Again, this, it all depends on the type of speaker and the type of amp and all that stuff. But generally, I find I like overpowered speakers for the amps that I'm running. So if I'm running a 20-watt amp, I want a 50-watt speaker at least in there. Again, it also depends on the type of speaker. I found that I'm not a huge fan of greenbacks. I don't like that high-end sizzle, that abundance of presence that's there. So it was a fun exercise to actually sit down and obsess over an amp and design an amp, and just kind of taking a little bit from here, a little bit from there, blending the sounds that I like, the styles of amps that I like. So it came out with a really nice package.
Sweet. Did you find that approaching amp design was any different than how you would approach a pedal, or is it kind of similar for you?
It's similar because it's all about finding the right balance of the sound that I'm looking for. And again, it's very much dialing in the feel of the amp. Getting the right amount of compression without making the amp sound overly squishy or overly stiff. Getting the right balance of low so it's not too boomy. Getting the right balance of high so that it's present but not piercing. It's kind of it was. The closest thing would be like dialing in the Zeta, so it's just getting all the frequencies right, and then the fun starts when you start plugging in a pedal board and seeing how it reacts with stuff, or when people come by the shop and guy comes in on his lunch break just to try it out on a whim, and he's there for 45 minutes late going back to work. So no, it's been a great experience. It was a lot of fun to do, and so now going into the production aspect of it will be another experience. See how that sets up. See how it's different from amps, from pedals.
Are you planning on doing everything in house like you do currently, or most things?
Yeah. Well, in terms of wiring up the chassis, circuit boards, sourcing all the parts, all that stuff. Yeah, we're doing that in house. In terms of the cab. We don't have a wood shop set up, and I definitely am not. My talents don't lie with wood, so I'll stay away from that. Yeah, I don't have the patience to work with wood. So apart from that, apart from sourcing the cab and getting the chassis made, everything else is pretty much done in house.
Really cool. Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Canadian-made Hammond transformers, and a whole bunch of other fun stuff in there.
Right. Well, let's take a few steps back. We kind of talked about what's new. Let's talk about how you got started playing guitar and how that led into you starting SolidGoldFX.
How I started playing guitar. My dad came home one day with a small 3/4 student size area classical.
Nice.
And that was pretty much where it started. I was 10 years old. So anyways, when I was younger, my dad plays the bass on and off. My uncles play the guitar. So when I was a kid, they used to get together and jam. And I remember from then my uncle used to have a Silverface Vibrolux. And even as a kid, I distinctly remember that amp with the shiny grill cloth and the witch hat knobs and all that stuff. And it was always something that was interesting to me. So 10 years old, I started playing the guitar. I still remember my first electric guitar. I got it for Christmas. It was an El Degas EDG 13, plywood, Chinese made or Japanese made, whatever it was, with a Crate GX 15 amp.
Yes.
Which sounded awful.
So many of us, that's our first.
Yeah.
That's so good. Is that the crate that's in a crate, like a literal crate?
Kind of looks like it. It's like a tiny little 15-watt solid-state amp with a little speaker and a terrible sounding distortion circuit. But man, oh man, and I remember my first pedal unit was a DoD FX7, the multi-effects unit, where you can program all kinds of stuff.
Well, yeah, that way you got them all. What more do you need?
Exactly. You got so many options. Not a single one of them sounds good. But if I can grab that setup again, just for the hell of it, I probably would buy it all again.
Oh yeah, nostalgia.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
How many?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
That's kind of how I got started.
Nice.
And the band at the time that I was that really drove me was Guns N' Roses. So I was a huge Slash fan. And in the beginning, kind of on and off, nothing too serious. And then by the time I got to high school, then I met up with some people who were into guitars and just feeding off of each other. It grew and grew and grew, and I was always I'm a gearhead, so no matter what I get into, it's like whether it's cars, whether it's guitars, whatever it is, it's all about how can the gear be better, what can I obsess over. And even when I was younger, it was the same thing, pedals, fuzz faces, this and that. And so, getting into a pedal company is just the natural progression of everything.
Right. So what year, you started tinkering on pedals, like on a DIY level, I'm assuming, and then just kind of spinning out from there?
Well, I basically started because I wanted a fuzz face, or I bought the Dunlop fuzz face, and it didn't sound really good. I wanted an original fuzz face. It was about $1,000 at the time. And that's really where it started from. And I've always wanted to build stuff. I always loved the idea of building stuff. So, the first one was a fuzz face, and then obviously the second one was a range master. The natural progression of how you get into building pedals. And that's kind of where it started. And then mods, I went into a music store and I bought, there was this vintage Gen Wah that was sitting there. So I brought it home and then quickly learned about true bypass, all that stuff. So start doing that on all the pedals. And then got a vintage Big Muff again, true bypass, fix up all the wiring, change the jacks, make the pedal reliable. And then the whole mod scene that was, 2004, 2005, 2006, started doing mods on all kinds of Boss pedals, DoD pedals, to the point where, I was studying finance in university, working at a body shop fixing cars, and then at home I had pedals coming and going for mods, and quickly was making more money on pedals than I was working at the body shop, and didn't really like the idea of working as a teller in the bank or, going into finance and not constantly be thinking about guitars. So at some point just made the plunge and decided, SolidGoldFX was going to be full-time and just do it.
And so you started, as far as income source, it was mostly mods at the time.
Yeah.
When you guys started.
Yeah, it was mods, and then it progressed into some pedal builds, and then more into pedal builds. Again, it kind of shifted with the market, because at some point everybody wanted to mod stuff. It wasn't necessarily and boutique pedals were 2 or 3 times the prices that they are today. There was some pretty heavy expensive stuff that people were buying before the markets kind of went wacky.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
What was the first official Solid Gold pedal that wasn't a mod, that was one of your own designs?
It was a germanium booster. It was a germanium booster to cop the Black Sabbath type of thing into a Marshall.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was called the Boost.
It
was a very creative name.
Yes, that did probably a lot of time in market research trying to figure that one out, right?
It was the Boost. I still have it. Blue powder coat enclosure. My sister did the lettering on it because my handwriting is terrible. She did it with a silver Sharpie.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, we've come a long way since then. I used to cook the circuit boards in the kitchen.
Oh wow! Did the etching and stuff?
Yeah, did the etching, drilling. Yeah.
Nice. And so you started with the booster, and then kind of like that seems like a logical choice, but when do you say there was? I'm trying to think of when I first started hearing about you, and it was probably around 2009, but obviously, or 10, somewhere in there. But obviously, you've been around for longer than that.
Yeah, we started in 2006, and again, 2006 was really lower key, just getting stuff rolling, learning the processes and how to set things up and all that stuff. I mean, there's been a good learning curve, and at the same time, my whole thing was build it steady, build it slowly, and just do what whatever is in your reach. Don't try to go too far out, and it just gets discouraging or screw something up royally that you can't recover from.
Right.
Yeah, the whole thing was the 2006 to 2008 was kind of like the first phase, and then 2008 when things started, the markets crashed and all that stuff. Took that time to kind of start developing things in a more professional manner, so to speak. So kind of looked over the product line, changed to a style of a visual that's closer to what we have today, with the silkscreen stuff and like proper graphics and all that stuff. And then when did we switch to all the colorful cases?
That was what I was wondering. I was like, there's definitely a turning point between the Sharpie and what you're doing now. Well,
the switching from the Sharpie was around 2008, 2009, 2008, I would say. Mm-hmm. And like the Sharpie didn't last very long. After that, we went to some silkscreen stuff, and again, the artwork was not on par with anything that we're doing today.
Right.
And then my sister started designing the artwork for me. At which point, the pedals were visually appealing. All the cases were black, and we had different colored artwork on it. So we had like the Formula 69, which was a Santex black enclosure with a blue silkscreen print on it. Super Drive was a black enclosure with an orange print on it. So yeah, I think that one was around 2008, 2009. And then again in 2011, I think 2011 or 2012. No, must be after that. Sometime around there, let's say circa 2012, we started getting into the more colorful cases. And over the last 2 years, we've really upped the ante with the different offerings in terms of custom colors, different tunings, and just really upped the ante with the fit and finish of all the enclosures.
Yeah, they look really, really nice. I've had the pleasure of playing through almost everything in the current line, and that's one thing that's very consistent, is that they're consistently extremely pretty inside and out.
That's it, because I obsess over the details maybe a little too much. So there's, whenever we get a shipment of cases in, there's a whole bunch of them that, we'll either set aside as B stock or simply send back to be stripped and refinished.
Right.
So quality is extremely important. Quality is extremely important because I want to make sure that if it has our name on it, it kind of lives up to a certain standard.
The gold standard, maybe?
Sure, we can call it that. Maybe something a little less cliche.
What? Okay. Just going solid gold. Okay, well, all right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Bad joke.
Yeah. It's all right. It's good. The gold standard. So, yeah, we want to make sure that it lives up to the gold standard. Just, I want to make sure whatever leaves the shop is something that we can all be proud of.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
And so when you're kind of going through and you talked about, building slow and kind of doing things that you basically, not reaching too far. But at the same time, then you have things like the Apollo 2.
Oh, yeah, that's way after. That's way after. So, yeah. Yeah.
That pedal's, I always cite it as the pedal that made me realize that I actually do like phasers, because I didn't think I did. And Alex was like, cool. you gotta try this. I'm like, I don't like phasers. He's like, just play this pedal. I'm like, okay. And I took it home and I played it for a long time. I really, really like that thing. So in kind of where I was going with that is, what does the process look like for you guys? Like, how do you go from, parts and breadboarding to final product or like conceptualizing everything? Like, just what's that process look like?
Conceptualizing can take a number of different, can come from a number of different directions. It can either be a part that we find that's cool, that sounds cool, that inspires a certain circuit. Could be an idea that we had that can sound cool. It could be like an existing product that we're just building on and developing, or like how can we push it further and do the version 2, or it can be something completely different for personal personal reasons, for personal desire,
just because you want to build it.
Just because you want to build it, exactly. Or had an idea, call up Alex. Alex is marketing director. For anybody who's listening, and we'll just shoot an idea back and forth until it builds, and then we see where we can schedule it and start working on it and start building on it. Or it could also be something like a customer request. Somebody sends an email with a great idea.
Mm-hmm. What was one that was spawned out of that?
Something I'm working on now, so I kind of don't really want to. I'm still working out the details, so I can't really get into it.
You don't let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But short bat, the short bat toggles were a great idea, and that was from an email. Hey, how cool would it be if you had short bats? Done. Let's order them.
There you go. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you talked about brainstorming with Alex, because that's essentially how the pedal you did for me came to be. Was I was brainstorming with Alex, so maybe
absolutely.
Seems to be
just sending ideas back and forth. I mean, it just works itself out.
Yeah, because we were originally talking about, like, when he first spun the idea to me, I started thinking about like something crazy, and then I started thinking to myself, well, no, I'm kind of known as a fuzz lover, which is very, very true. It should probably be a fuzz. And it was like, oh, okay. Well, I know where to go with this. This, it just makes sense because, as I had the V1 Agent 13, and it was just simply like, here, Alex, I really like this pedal, but here's what I would do differently. And we started kind of batting it back and forth, and so I imagine doing that process over and over again would lead some pretty cool results.
Absolutely. So yeah, we definitely come up with ideas, and we'll talk about something for an hour, 2 hours, and then come back to it the next day and start talking about it again and come up with other ideas and how we can do things differently. He'll spit something out. I'll start to visualize how we can set it up, and solid process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really It's really interesting. So when you set out to do things like the Imperial, for example, which is your take on the classic muff circuit, everything you do is, if it's based on something else, it always has an extra something to it. Has that always been that way, or is that just a development, trying to stand out from a sea of clones, basically?
Well, the idea is I love vintage stuff. I love vintage gear. I collect vintage gear. So, I love big muffs for what they are, but they have a lot of shortcomings. So why make a pedal that will just be a clone in a sea of other pedals that are doing the exact same thing? So if somebody's looking for a Ramset Big Muff or a Civil War Big Muff, that's cool. There's a bunch of people making them. They're making great pedals. When we got into the Imperial, for instance, it was, do we really want to jump on that bandwagon? Well, not really, but at the same time, there's a pedal that's a pedal that was built for personal, out of personal desire. Mm-hmm. So what would I do differently? Cut down the noise factor. How would it work with a JFET input? What could we do to make the tone stack a little bit more usable? Cut down the noise floor. And how would BC183 sound in there? Great. And they bump up the mids. So the package kind of came together, sounded good, reduced the noise floor. So it kind of hit on a number of criteria that we have. And then it just comes down to putting the colors on the case, figuring out the knobs, the layout, all that stuff, and getting it out.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the BC183 specifically, not to get too nerdy on the general guitar player right now, but we've got to nerd out a little bit. That seems to come up in a lot of your fuzz designs. What is it? And it's what's in mine, for instance. What is it about that chip? Because it's not as commonly used. As far as I know, it's not as commonly used as some others.
It's a discrete transistor, silicon. I like the gain range on it. It's not low gain. It's not high gain. I like the mid-range characteristic that it presents, and it seems to work well in the circuits that it goes in. And again, we won't use it just for the sake of using it, but you can definitely hear the difference between the BC108 and the BC183, and our F6 was 9 since we built both of them. And it just, in certain circuits, it just gives it that extra little bit of oomph that might be missing. So, like in the Imperial, it just gives it that extra little bit of mid-range character in a pedal that's otherwise known to be scooped or flat in the mids. And same thing, just comparing, let's say, the Model 1 that we did with the Agent 13 that you have. You can, it's a similar style of circuit since that's kind of where we started. And you can hear... there's other mods in there's other changes that we made on the Model 1 that beefs it up, but part of that is the BC183.
Yeah. It wasn't, there was somebody on the gear page that was commenting about it. They're like, this seems similar to the Agent 13, in a good way. And I don't know if it was you or Alex that was kind of commenting, and they're like, oh yeah, and this is the changes we made and blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of, since I only have a base level knowledge of things, I just had to kind of poke my face in there and be like, well, the thing is like, I never ever considered the Agent 13 to be a thin sounding pedal by any stretch of the imagination. But when you compare them side by side, all of a sudden it seems that way. Which is super interesting. And it just, it was exactly what I was hoping for. So I guess that's where I'm going with that. Fun pedal. Let's see here. I kind of want to talk about the Zeta a little bit, because that's one of my go-tos also. And how do you, without maybe giving away too many secrets, how do you get a pedal to feel correctly like that? That just has... it may sound similar to other, circuits like that, but it feels different. Like, what kind of steps do you have to take to make something kind of sag and compress that way? Or is it just you just tweak the circuit until you like what you're feeling?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the FET preamp that's set up in there. You know, and again, just like the BC183, we use FETs in a lot of places. And yeah, it's basically the interaction between the FET, the IC stage, and the clipping stage. And just getting everything dialed in correctly so that we're not running too much gain out of the preamp, we're not running too much gain in the IC stage, and we're not clipping too heavily with the diodes. So again, it just comes back to balancing things out and balancing out the different stages.
Gotcha.
and the frequencies. So not to make anything too bass heavy, but not to neuter the lows. Just make something that sounds right.
Another kind of I don't want to say feature, or I should just be like a running theme with your pedals. They're some of the quietest that I have. Is there
obsession.
like
that's
some
personal obsession? That noise drives me nuts. Rattles drive me nuts. Hissing drives me nuts. It's really annoying. Seriously, it's like I'll be playing something and I'll just stop because something's rattling and I have to chase it.
chase the rat like in a speaker cab or something, even in the room.
Something in the room. You know, something's on a shelf that's rattling. What is it? I gotta find it. It's really annoying.
I see that. Okay, that characteristic so translates into the noise. Gotcha.
Yeah. So when it comes to noise, if ever we're using a component that can be noisy, that component is auditioned prior to actually going into a pedal. We do that with our reverb modules. We do that with our delay chips. Sometimes we do that with transistors. Especially if we're using any type of germanium. That thing is tested like 15 times over before we actually build it.
Oh, wow. So, you're literally just plugging in it. Nope, that one's no good. Plug another one in. Nope, that one's no good.
The germanium stuff is fun. Recently I found a nice stash of germanium transistors that I'm starting to test and play with. But, some of the ones that I've had in the past, you'll try it one day, it sounds great. Try it the next day, it doesn't.
Right.
So just trying to sort through it, measure the gain, measure the leakage, and see once that's done, that's the first sort, and then plug it into a pedal before soldering anything, hear it, bias it, hear it again, and then kind of sort them out again from there. Which is why we don't do much with germanium in terms of a standard product, but definitely for custom stuff. This batch that I found, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Nice. Is there a way, I've heard this said before, and I don't know if it's actually true or if it's mumbo jumbo internet talk, but I've heard of guys, because germanium's kind of known to be finicky, especially with like temperature changes and things. Is there a way, I seen a claim from a manufacturer one time that said they temperature protected their germanium, and I don't know how that would work.
Not really.
Is that nonsense, or is that something?
Not really.
Okay.
Really. Yeah, you can't. It's you can actually see it as if you're holding the transistor and you have it plugged into a tester, you can see the numbers change
with your body
warmth.
Your
body heat.
Yep. Okay. It sounded. I have a pretty semi decent lie detector, I think, when it comes to like marketing stuff like that, and I was like, how do you temperature protect? It's gonna change. You got an ice cube in there? Like,
you can definitely do some circuitry that will kind of compensate for shifts.
Okay, that's probably
no
what they
mean.
mean.
Like, it's the nature of the transistor.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for the information. I was curious about that, and there again, I don't know anything, so interesting. So here, let's go here. Do you have a favorite pedal to build in your line, or in general? Is there a personal Greg favorite?
To build, like in terms of actually like soldering and manufacturing, or because I love the pedal and I just want to build it?
How about both? I guess your favorite to manufacture would probably be whichever one goes together the fastest. Yes
and no. There are some where it's just you assemble it and it's so pretty inside. I mean, the Apollo definitely is pretty, but it's not a favorite to build.
Oh, it's beautiful inside. I love the inside of the Apollo.
That takes some time. I don't know. I guess this is sorry on both accounts. It's fun to build and it's fun to play once it's built.
The Sasori is awesome.
Yeah, that is when it's time to test a batch of those. That's heaven.
That's a good day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's so brassy. Like I could see, back in the day. I know you know this, but some people might not. Some of the fuzz pedals from back in the day were made to, ironically, imitate horns.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. And I never really understood that until playing the Sasori and a few others like it. Where it's like, oh, okay, I can get where their thought was that this might sort of sound like a horn. Because for a long time I thought that was the silliest thing I'd ever heard. A fuzz pedal sounding like a trumpet? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I get it now.
Yeah, that's a fun pedal, and yeah, I mean, I think brassy is the only way to describe that. It's brassy and nasty.
Yeah, it's like the world's dirtiest trumpet.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice. So, what kind of music do you normally play? You mentioned Guns N' Roses before. Do you play in bands currently, or what's your musical life these days?
I do not play in bands currently, simply because my time is kind of devoted to SolidGoldFX. And one thing I don't want to be is that guy, in the band who never shows up.
Right.
So no, at this point, I'm more a gearhead collector, obsessor. And pretty much play whenever I can, which is fun. And in terms of the music that I like and the music I listen to, I mean, it's a pretty wide range. Anything from jazz to classic rock, heavy metal, blues, reggae. So, I mean, I guess like I said, the band that got me really into playing the guitar was Guns N' Roses. And then as I developed in high school, it came down to Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Cream era. Black Sabbath is a huge favorite of mine. And now as I'm diving more into jazz and stuff like that, I'm absolutely in love with Wes Montgomery.
Oh, yes. Good call.
I can just listen to that for hours.
That seems like it would be good pedal assembling music, Wes Montgomery.
Yes, it is. And we do have, we have some vinyl at work, which we put on for those mellower pedal assembly days. For the crazier ones, we got Megadeth. So it's a nice, range.
What separates the crazy from the mellow? Is it just the amount of work you got to get done?
Just the mood that morning. Whether we want to kind of have a mellower work environment or whether or not we want to put, Kill 'Em All or something on the record player. Mm-hmm.
How many, you say we, I know you and Alex, but how many employees do you have currently?
It's Alex works remotely, so he's in your neck of the woods. And in Montreal, I have Tyler, who is my lead assembler at this point, and I have my bookkeeper.
Very nice. Yeah, that's important. It seems like anybody who's like a creative type, it's like really nice to have a dedicated bookkeeper. You
know what? Even if I wanted to do the books, I mean, there's so much I can do in a day. And it's nice to have somebody who makes me have to organize stuff. Right. Otherwise, I mean, there's like a stack of papers on my desk at any given point on one side, and then on the other side, you got all the components, whatever I'm prototyping, piled up. It's good. Managed chaos.
Yes, I hear you on that. Let's see. There was another question I had. I was going to ask you if you were playing in a band what your current rig looked like, but I guess that question doesn't really count unless you do have a semi-solid setup right now.
Yeah, I mean, the solid setup would be a pedal board loaded with our pedals, Our amp, I mean, it's kind of a loaded question. So
You don't play other people's pedals? Come on.
No, so I mean, like right now, I'm looking down at my pedal board. So we got that old Genoa from way back when, Red Phasal from the 70s.
Nice.
TC Electronic Polytune going into a Funklight, a Zeta, a Beta, Sasori, Rosie, Imperial, the Buffer, the Apollo, the Electroman, the Surf Rider, the Sutterlight. So that's the current setup.
It is. It's all you all the time.
What can I say? So
you have a preference. You have a thing. It sounds like.
It's my brand.
Are there any other builders that you kind of look at as inspirations, or just you dig what they have going on, or you kind of head down?
I mean, there's a lot of people in this industry that are doing some pretty amazing stuff, which we have a lot of respect for, and which I have a lot of respect for. Guys here at Empress, Dr. Scientist, Diamond, they've been doing it for the longest time. I mean, I remember at some point somebody way back when I was first getting started gave me a Diamond pedal, and just the fit and finish of the pedal just blew me away. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we have our peers that are doing some pretty incredible stuff. Some of the Chase Bliss stuff is just nuts.
Oh man. It's like this was made by humans.
Yeah, it's not just the the programming and controller aspect, but getting all of that to fit in a tiny little case. Incredible.
Yeah, and then not having other issues. It actually works as it's supposed to. It's just like, Joel. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah. And then if you ever meet that guy, he's one of the nicest human beings too. So I highly recommend hitting him up if you ever get a chance. Absolutely. He's a good dude. The Empress Reverb, since you brought that company up, they just seem to be crushing it with that thing. I just watched a knobs demo with it. It's like, and I played it briefly at NAMM, but at NAMM it's like,
yeah, you can't hear anything at NAMM.
Yeah, you can't tell. I was like, this looks cool, but I can't hear anything. Yeah. So, but yeah, they just seem to be crushing it with that reverb. Yeah,
it's got a
plus
beer
it has
setting.
beer mode.
Exactly.
Do you have any plans to like brand? That seems to be like the way the industry's going, is into these like crazy, like way in-depth pedals. Do you have any plans to like explore that neck of the woods? I mean, it seems like the Apollo is a tippy toe into that stuff.
I think that's as far as I'm willing to go. Because it's, for me, I like things where it can do cool stuff, but I like everything laid out in front. I like it easy to dial in. At some point, once it gets too many knobs, it just becomes a little daunting. Not necessarily daunting, but you can get lost in it. You can easily get lost in it. Right. So it's kind of, again, finding that balance of, modern and vintage, let's say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I don't think we'll be going into like stuff with submodes and hidden features and added presets and stuff like that. I don't think that's our jam. Right.
So you do have some stuff in the pipeline, though. Is there anything coming out soon, keeping in mind this episode's not going to drop for another few weeks, that you can talk about, like, more in-depth?
We got some mini boosters that we're doing. So it was a project that we just cooked up on a whim, which came together really nicely. And the whole idea was to do small, the little case size, like our buffer, boosters, one knob boosters, where basically build it like one of our full-size pedals, except smaller, and use it to highlight our favorite components. So they're literally labeled BC108 or BC183 or JFET, and the whole idea is to highlight the different transistors that we like working with. So, we have the BC183, which has that low mid grunt. We have the BC108, which is a little bit tighter. The JFET, which is cleaner and more, for lack of a better term, hi-fi. And then we have a BC549, which is a high gain, low noise transistor that I like working with. And we decided to make that a dirty booster. So it's a fun little set. And the cool thing is you can position them in different positions. You can put them in different positions on your board depending on where you want to add color or where you want to add volume or sustain. Or you can string them together and have a wicked overdrive.
That was my next question. Are these going to be like as a bundle pack for experimenting, or are they individual? Because that would be pretty cool to have like all of them. Got to catch them all type of situation.
That's exactly it. I mean, you can mix and match whatever you want depending on what flavor you want. And you can kind of just use it as a building block. And depending on what order you put them in, put the BC549, the dirty booster in front of another booster, or, vice versa. Get different interactions, different colors.
Or in the effects loop of the Electroman. Or,
yes,
I'm already getting weird ideas.
That would actually be fun, the 549 and the Electroman. Get some dirty delays going on.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you. The Electroman was, I think that might have been like the second pedal I got from you. That thing is just a mainstay. I just love that delay so much, and I don't think it gets enough love. So everyone listening right now can go check out the Electroman. It's been doing things that other people are claiming are new for a long time.
Thank you.
I love that thing.
Yeah, it's been we've had that for a while, and it's been kind of like one of our staples. Oddly enough, that's probably the pedal that really put us on the map way back when PGS did their demo of it.
Back when it was like the green enclosure, I think.
No, earlier than that, black enclosure with a green print.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, the Electroman's awesome. I've kind of constantly find new sounds with it by using the effects loop. People have heard me kind of go on and on about delay pedals with effects loops, and that's the one that started the craze for me. So I'm finding all kinds of interesting sounds to stick on delay trails, and so thank you for thinking of that. That's a great feature.
You're welcome. Stick an octaver in there with a fuzz.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. I've actually put the Formula 76 in there too. That gets nuts. Yeah. And a whammy. Yeah, I mean,
noise floor at that point, there are no guarantees on the noise floor, but yeah, you can have some fun with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you mentioned that you collect vintage gear. Are there any like crown jewels in the collection right now?
Crown jewels, yeah. I would have my Jazzmaster. I have a 63 Jazzmaster.
Oh man.
So for the Fender stuff, crown jewels would be the 63 Jazzmaster. I have a 72 Tele that I love. I have a 1970 Mustang bass with the competition stripes. Really fun bass to play. Cool. And way back in the day, I had picked up a 72 Jazz in a pawn shop. And that's just, I love that bass. On the Gibson side of things, I have a 65 ES335.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. And what's nice about the 65, it's kind of a transition year. So it has a slightly narrower nut, but it's got a nice full neck. So it's a lot of fun to play. It's not like the later 60s stuff where it kind of has the pencil thin necks, and it's a little bit hard to dig in sometimes. Yeah, so that's the 335. The pickups in that guitar sound absolutely phenomenal. Really, really good condition as well, with just the right amount of checking.
What color?
Sunburst.
Oh man.
Yeah. For some reason, I have a lot of sunburst guitars. Can't find the cool colors.
I like sunburst too.
I love sunburst. Just at some point, you want something that's blue.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just looking at my guitars right now. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sunburst guitars. So. Yeah, so 65 335. The most recent one that I picked up is a 61 or 62 ES330, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'm in love with that guitar.
P90s, right?
Yeah, P90s,
Yep.
full hollow, thin line. It's a great playing guitar. And the neck profile on that, it's got that early 60s slim taper on it, which just feels amazing. Guitar's been broken in nicely. Had to clean about, 40, 50 years of nicotine out of the guitar. It still smells a little bit, but it plays and sounds amazing. And I have a 55 Gibson ES-175.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, which again picked up. With the original lifting case and everything, I couldn't refuse it. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm, the higher end stuff that I have. In terms of amps, I have a 68 Plexi, 50 watt Plexi sitting on top of an 810 cab. I have a 69 metal face JMP 50. Marshall, I got a couple of old amp pegs, a super reverb I love, a 1970 super reverb. So that's kind of the arsenal.
You're doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and a guild. I have a guild. I bought a guild last year.
A guild, what kind of guild?
66 T100D.
Wow.
Original owner with the case, has the original warranty paper and the original guild stamped cloth to wipe the guitar down.
Wow, that's cherry. You don't get much better than that.
Yeah, too bad it's not a Starfire, but it's fun.
That's it'll do. I think. I think it'll be okay. I don't think anyone's feeling too sorry for you at this point.
No.
That Jazzmaster you mentioned, I only played it for about, not yours, but I played a blonde 62 Jazzmaster. I believe that's the year. When I was in Nashville at Grun Guitars, and that is one of the best guitars I've ever played in my life. So if your 63 is anything like that, I can imagine.
It's a great guitar. It's a great guitar. I mean, I love the way the guitar looks. I love the way the guitar plays. I love the sound of the Jazzmaster. I love the vibrato, the trem that's on the Jazzmaster. Really, really versatile, and universally usable guitars in many different types of music. From many different types of sound. And I mean, Jaguars, Jazzmasters, I love that lead rhythm switch. Especially, when you get going into something that's fuzzy or driven, put in the rhythm, get that extra woolly tone going. Great guitars. Absolutely great guitars.
Very, very cool. Is that one burst also?
Yeah, it's a burst. So, all the offsets are burst. So the Jazz Bass is a burst, the Jaguar is a burst, the Jazzmaster is a burst. They're burst. The Tellys...
It seems to be a little bit divisive. Would you consider yourself more of a fan of the Jaguar or the Jazzmaster?
Definitely Jazzmaster. The Jaguar, it's cool. I don't know. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not that the short scale is for me or not, but definitely a cool guitar. There are some days where I play it and I absolutely love it, and there's some days where it's just, I don't know, not fun.
Rather play the Jazzmaster.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Lately I've been on a big hollow body bender, so it's the Gibson's getting the workout.
Well, you're playing the Wes Montgomery tunes.
No, I'm not there yet, no.
Okay.
No.
That's probably the inspiration, though, right?
There you go. I guess so. No,
yeah.
It's I don't know. There's just something about the way you can control the feedback, with overdrive and stuff like that. It's fun.
I do find them to be really fun. I don't have any fully hollows I only have one semi-hollow, or two semi-hollows, I guess. I kind of forget that the Rick's semi-hollow, though, sometimes.
Which one do you have? The 330?
I got that to the 360.
The 360, nice.
Yeah. There was a local store closing, and they were blowing out their Rickenbackers. It was It was crazy. It was crazy cheap. Like, I wasn't planning on buying it, but it was like I can't even get them used that price. Yeah. So, snatch.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you pick it up and you figure it out later. If you don't like it, flip it.
Exactly. It's like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I haven't talked about this in a while, but I did on some of the early episodes. I actually use the Rickenbacker more for like heavy music than I do for, more what you would think of when you think of Rickenbacker. I don't know if I feel like that's kind of weird, but I'll play like drop tune, like stoner metal type riffs with that. And that's what that guitar always makes me want to do. I don't know why. Just seems right.
If it works and it sounds right, why not? I mean, I run fuzz with the 175, so
yes. That's fantastic.
So I saw pictures of your Les Paul Jr.
What's that?
I saw pictures of your Les Paul Jr.
Oh yeah, that's my number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked about that ad nauseum too, but yeah, the Junior is I don't know if you know, that was my grandpa's. So
yeah, you told me about that.
Oh, that's right.
What was that? A 55, 56?
55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The P90s from those years, they sound so good.
There's something about them. And
they sound so good.
Did they sound that good new, or has something to do with the magnet kind of degrading over time? I don't know.
I know.
It's
so that's the vintage magic.
Mm-hmm. We may never know. Yeah. Or is it just the mojo? It could just be the mojo. Makes me think it sounds good.
Yeah.
Does your older P90s, I have never measured this thing, but it seems pretty hot. Like hotter than a lot of the newer ones I've played. Does that seem to be what you've seen, or do I have a weird one?
I've never actually compared it. Yeah, I should compare it to the 330 and see what's the only thing is that the guitars are so different. One being a full hollow versus the thin line versus your solid body. And a lot of it also has to do as to how close the strings are to the pickup, especially with the P90s.
Well, that's true.
Because, I remember I had a 1979 or 1980. It was this Les Paul special double cut that was a custom order for a guitar store in Montreal back in the day. A store called La Tosca. Cool guitar, bound top, flame maple, a bound flame maple top with a cherry burst on it.
Wow.
It was a horrendous guitar. But the bridge P90 sounded incredible. The neck was mud.
Hmm.
And the finish on it wasn't stable, so, you play the guitar, your hand would be red.
Oh, jeez.
It was terrible. It was a horrendous guitar. Brass nut, like totally 80s, 70s.
I don't think I've ever had that happen on a guitar.
Oh, yeah.
The finish.
Sometimes the nitro will just get soft.
They'll just say, no, I'm gone. I'm fleeing this guitar. It's too ugly or something. I don't know. Well, okay, we're getting pretty close to the end, and I do need to ask you the classic Tone Mob question, which you may know is coming. I don't know. But, Greg, what kind of pizza do you like?
What kind of pizza do I like?
It's important that we know this.
Like what kind of pizza? Like toppings or pizza in general? Like how deep are we going with this?
Yeah, get real specific. Yeah, the whole thing.
Oof. All right, there's a few pizzas that have really stood out over my years eating pizza. Like when somebody says pizza, the first thing that hits me would be Grimaldi's in New York. Spectacular pizza. The dough bubbles up, a little bit of cheese here, a little bit of cheese there, but really the dough just bubbles up. You get those air pockets in the dough. Yeah, I can go for some now. Grimaldi's, the New York brick oven pizza, that is definitely up there. Pizza in Italy. Obviously, when I went to Italy, that was obviously good pizza. But in terms of just like a regular takeout, toppings would be pepperoni, mushroom, and if I want to get special, throw in a little bit of bacon and some olives.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got a crust preference? You like a thin? You like a thick pan, or what? What do you?
Not pan, not thick, not thin. Like for regular, like we're talking not like brick oven or Italian style pizza. Yeah, just like a medium kind of dough. You want to have enough dough where you can taste the dough. If it's too thin, the balance is off with the toppings. If it's too thick, you just have this oily, crusty dough. You're kind of eating like a cheese bread as opposed to pizza. So. Yeah, I think that's kind of, and sesame seed on the crust, if they offer that option, is delicious.
Yeah, that is delicious. I don't see that as often as I would think.
Yeah,
there's
seems... not a lot of places that do that here, but there's a few, and it's good.
Right on.
It's good.
Well, that's the most important question that I had, so we'll just edit it down to that section, and we'll call it an episode.
Well, what you can do is like two different versions: the abbreviated one where it just gets to that question, and then my long drawn responses throughout the rest.
Right on, man. Well, let's do the final thing of the show. Where can everybody find Solid Gold on the internet, website, social media, etc.? Where's that at?
We are at www.solidgoldfx.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter occasionally. And
all
now
Solid
on
Gold FX. There you go. Oh, there you go. Well, thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate you taking the time to come on, and I'm glad we were finally able to get this thing in the can.
Absolutely. It was a blast, Blake.
All right, everybody. For Greg, this is Blake, and as always, good luck and good tones.
Thank you very much for tuning in this week. There are a lot of other podcasts or other sorts of entertainment that you could be indulging in right now, but the fact that you're listening to this one, well, that means a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if you can't get enough gear and other kinds of talk and conversation, don't forget about the Facebook group. If you search the Tone Mob on Facebook, you will see the group, and go ahead and join. I'll get you approved and get you in there, and you can start talking with all the people who are much more intelligent than myself, which is pretty much everybody who's in there. So search on Facebook, The Tone Mob, join the group, come hang out. We'd love to have you in there. And until next week, have a good one. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.